In her first book, The Bluest Eye, Toni Morrison identifies the idea of romantic love as one of the most destructive ideas in the history of human thought. Its destructiveness resides in the fact that we are always encultured to believe that love is pain, and this idea is then reinforced by our families, friends, and society as a whole. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 of the most insidious ways in which pop culture grooms us to romanticize abuse and toxic relationships. The first point is that violence is frequently romanticized as love in the media. In You, Joe is a murdering stalker, and yet people all over the internet are shipping Joe and Beck, the woman he killed. In Suicide Squad, the Joker's relationship with Harley Quinn is where the relationship goals phenomenon was born, despite the fact that he slaps her, offers to give her to a random gangster.
You are my guests to this handsome hunka,
pushes her through windows, and pretends she doesn't exist most of the time. Anime is full of physically, verbally, and sexually abusive relationships that are normalized as love.
神など信じないが、たとえ我が身が最終形態に変化したとしても、私はユータを好きでいる。
本当か?
Edward from Twilight was a whole generation's heartthrob, despite the fact that he stalks Bella,
I like watching you sleep.
constantly puts her in danger,
I wanted to kill you.
totally abandons her
This is the last time you'll ever see me.
to the point of suicidality, physically hurts Bella, and controls who she hangs out with.
Oh,
Edward, you have to trust me.
I do trust you. It's him I don't trust.
In 50 Shades of Grey, Christian is a controlling, misogynistic, violent, unstable, narcissistic stalker and abuser.
I don't make love. I
And whether it's Beauty and the Beast, 365 Days, or Passenger, men abducting women is also frequently romanticized in movies.
Help! Get the police! Help! My, they must be terribly in love.
In all these cases, we are taught to see the man's violent, coercive, controlling, jealous behavior as seductive, charming, protective, an indication of how much he loves and cares for her. Their toxicity is an integral aspect of what makes them so sexy, perfect lovers, exciting soulmates. This can lead us to excuse, romanticize, and fetishize the violent behavior of men, and can make stable, healthy partners and relationships seem boring in comparison as we learn to desire the volatility, the obsession, and learn to take abuse as a compliment. A common trope in the media is that a woman can change and fix a man if only she loves him enough, and that as soon as he is fixed, all his past behavior is forgiven and forgotten, totally brushed under the carpet. In Dracula, Mina's love for Dracula turns him from a vampire to a prince. In Suicide Squad, there's an underlying message that despite being constantly abused by the Joker, Harley Quinn is there to help him change. In The Vampire Diaries, Stefan tells Elena to go back to Damon because she stops him from killing people. In Beauty and the Beast, Bella's love for the Beast transforms him into a prince. And in Phantom of the Opera, Christine's display of compassion to the Phantom makes him change his ways and release her from captivity.
Forget me. Forget all of this. Go now. Don't let them find you.
This can send a toxic message to women in abusive relationships that no matter how abusive he is, if you stick around, you can change him. And it also puts a great deal of pressure and responsibility on women to prioritize helping abusive men no matter what the cost is to themselves. This further conditions women into endless self-sacrifice and emotional labor for men. At the same time, men are let off the hook completely from taking any responsibility for their behavior. Instead, they can wait around for a woman so perfect that she can cure him of his violent ways. And when women fail to get a man to change, they are blamed, or they blame themselves for not having tried enough, for not having loved him more. The widespread normalization of this trope can also subtly condition our attractions so that we start to desire the wounded bird. We want to take their broken wings and heal them. But the truth is, it's not possible to cure abusive people by loving them in the right way. Genuine redemption requires taking accountability, responsibility, and making amends for your actions. And people with a history of abuse don't spare their loved ones. In fact, it's often the people closest to them that bear the brunt of their violence. The moment someone starts to abuse you, it's time to get out, not stick around trying to heal them. The third toxic love trope I wanted to discuss is the way in which the sexual assault of women is so often normalized, trivialized, and even eroticized in the media. In Gossip Girl, when Chuck's attempted rape of Jenny was brought up, Jenny was depicted as the one in the wrong, shipped off to another city, and left the show.
Get out of here now. And not just out of this hospital, but off this island. Go, and never come back.
Whilst he, on the other hand, goes on to become a romantic lead.
I love you so much. It consumes me.
When Damon from the Vampire Diaries rapes and abuses Caroline, Caroline was blamed.
So what exactly was it about him that made you jump right into bed with him as soon as you met him?
Game of Thrones features over 50 different rape scenes, graphically depicting the rape of often nameless women that are shown from the man's perspective, quickly glossed over, and more often than not, used as a plot device to further a man's character development. In all these cases, rather than being seen as villains, these men are idolized, their abusive behavior permissible, their story arc more important. Meanwhile, the woman's experience and pain is totally swept under the rug. And to make matters worse, the rape is often eroticized, the men's actions charming rather than scary, with pornified aesthetics to give added titillation and arousal to us as the viewers. Such depictions of sexual assault, by downplaying and desensitizing us to how traumatic, appalling, and life-damaging assault can be, perpetuates our existing rape culture and the objectification and degradation of women. In fact, studies have already shown how this can have long-lasting and serious consequences for victims. Media portrayals of sexual assault and rape have been shown to increase victim blaming and influence the way women, the general public, the police, the criminal justice system, and in some cases, the way juries have perceived a female victim. Another classic pop culture trope is that love is proven by not taking no for an answer. A man wants a woman, the woman is initially uninterested.
You must be crazy. I could never love someone like you, Phil.
Saying no to his advances. He refuses to listen to the rejection, persists by spying, stalking, and manipulating her until eventually she is worn down, and they end up happily ever after.
If I say yes, will you leave? This is my job.
8 p.m. tomorrow.
Have you been following me?
Just once a day.
What room are you in?
I'm not telling you that.
I see you were in room 625.
Room 625, thank you.
This teaches men that women just don't know what we want, we have to be convinced, or we're just playing hard to get, and if they put in the time and effort, they're entitled to us. All of this ultimately romanticizes stalking, controlling behavior of not taking no for an answer and violating women's boundaries and consent. As the journalist Anna North wrote in Vox, boys learn at a young age from pop culture, their elders and their peers, that it's normal to have to convince a woman to have sex, and that repeated small violations of her boundaries are an acceptable way to do so, perhaps even the only way. This can also socialize women to believe that intrusive attention is proof of a man's passion, and that we should be grateful, flattered, and touched by such a violation. And it can also condition us to not go after what we want, not even know what we want, because we are taught that we are more desirable if we are passive and oblivious. This type of messaging can make it really difficult to disentangle whether and when our boundaries and consent have been violated, and if and when we should be afraid rather than flattered. Paedophilia may seem taboo and despised by the masses, but a closer examination of pop culture reveals that the mass media actually encourages and conditions people, especially men, to have paedophilic desires by romanticizing this form of abuse. Game of Thrones has iffy age dynamics throughout the show. Daenerys is 14 when she gets pregnant. In Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom is a grooming paedophile who initiates a relationship with Christine when she is just 7, and he's the age of her dad. In Twilight, Bella is 17, Edward is over 100.
I'm 109.
Wow. Maybe I shouldn't be dating such an old man. It's gross.
And Jacob imprints on an infant. In Call Me By Your Name, Elio is 17, Oliver is 24. Annie is flooded with paedophilic relationships and has been presented in such a way to make audiences root for them. In 50 Shades of Grey, Anastasia is prized for being naive, incompetent, innocent, and virginal. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy hooks up with a minor. Pop culture detective coined the term "born sexy yesterday" to refer to the rampant paedophilic dynamics in sci-fi, where women from non-human societies are hypersexualized for their childlike traits of innocence, inexperience, purity, and naivety.
Big. Bada big boom. Big. Boom.
Yeah, big bada boom.
Bada boom.
Big boom. Big bada boom.
And are eventually groomed by far more experienced men in positions of power.
Would you mind if I kissed you?
Does it hurt?
Even in movies whose main theme is paedophilia, instead of depicting paedophilia as violent, they often victim blame the child as complicit in their own abuse. The most famous example of this is Lolita, who at 12 years old is portrayed as a sexy, mature, aggressive seductress who lures middle-aged Humber into a trap. Lolita is now an aspiration for young women and a sexual fantasy for men. It's not hard to see how these kind of portrayals condition more and more paedophilic attractions, encourages and normalizes sexual predation, increases victim blaming, and trivializes the very real harm experienced by victims of this kind of abuse. So why does love hurt? Because we are constantly encultured to believe that being in love means being in pain. Mass media gets us to normalize, trivialize, and eroticize toxic relationships and abuse. and also reinforces toxic patriarchal gender roles. Men as dominating, controlling, and violent, women as passive, submissive, sexualized objects. This can shape how men view women, but also how women view ourselves, internalizing misogyny, subconsciously participating in our own objectification and dehumanization. Although this has been a very binary discussion because most media depictions of love are of heterosexual couples, I think this can have negative impacts for people of all genders, as we fail to recognize or dismiss the signs of toxic relationships, mistake abuse for love, making it increasingly difficult to leave abusive partners or seek help. I think Penn Badley, when talking about his role in You, put it really perfectly when he said,
Everybody keeps saying, yeah, but he's sweet, but it's a love story. Like, what world? I don't believe that's love. I don't believe that love equals this. So I think we have to question what is love, and if we think this is love, where are we mistaken?
This isn't to say we should never portray abuse dynamics ever. I think it can be important and powerful to portray these types of relationships if it's done in a critical, thought-provoking, and educational way that underscores the gravity of what is being depicted. Unfortunately, that's not what we tend to see. Ultimately, love should be full of joy, playfulness, collaboration, equality, compassion, adventure, where even if it ends, both people are happier for having experienced it. And it's about time that we have more of these depictions in the media that can normalize and encourage and condition us to have healthier relationships in our lives. As Bell Hooks said in her book All About Love, were we collectively to demand that our mass media portray images that reflect love's reality, it would happen. These videos take an enormous amount of time, energy, and resources to create, so if you like my videos, please consider becoming a patron or leaving a one-time donation on PayPal or Ko-fi. Thank you so much to my current patrons for helping me continue to make videos. I appreciate it so much. And if you liked this video, I have a monthly Patreon podcast, and in the last episode I discussed my experiences of the romanticization of abuse and how they impacted me and my relationships. I feel like I've so often used my hypersexuality as a way to maintain safety in a relationship, aka let me provide as many different sexual acts, sexual performances, exactly what they want, when they want it, how they want it, etc., in order for me to make sure that they don't reject and abandon me. And Mexi and I co-host a bi-weekly Discord call for patrons where we chat together about different topics, and the next one will be on the romanticization of abuse, which you can join for $2 a month on Patreon. Thank you so much to my current patrons for helping make this channel possible. I really don't think I could do it without you, so I appreciate you very much. Thank you.